Morning, I'm Michael from the Sewing Place, and today I want to talk about one of the most important features that you'll find on a Viking and Pfaff sewing machine. These are exclusive to Viking and Pfaff. You're not going to find this anywhere else. And it is a metering system where the machine calculates how much thread is needed to form each stitch and unwinds that amount of thread rather than using the traditional method of tension, which is basically two pieces of metal squeezing the thread. That tension system on typical traditional sewing machines can be a flawed system because what you'll end up with is the thread being stressed because it's being squeezed, or you can end up with discrepancies in the stitching because if the thread gets thicker, that is being squeezed differently than if it's thinner. Again, traditional method is two pieces of metal squeezing the thread. Behind those two pieces of metal is a spring. That spring is being compressed to give us tension. If you have a thicker thread, that's pushing harder on that spring, which in fact causes more tension. If you have a thinner thread, you have less tension because it's pushing less hard on that spring. So to overcome these discrepancies, Viking and Pfaff have done tremendous amount of research and development to give you the most precise stitching method yet available. And again, this is exclusive to Viking and Pfaff. This is something you just can't find anywhere else, and it's so important. So what's happening then is the machine is literally calculating how much thread is needed. I'm going to shine a little light, and as you can see, I've removed a cover. These particular little wheels here are going to unwind the correct amount of thread for each stitch. And so by doing that, what you end up with is a much more precise stitch quality. So it doesn't matter if I'm using a metallic thread like I'm using now, or a thin thread or cotton thread. My stitch should remain consistent and equal regardless of the threads I'm using, because the machine is using a much more precise method of creating that stitch. So if you look, we have a very beautiful stitch, and on the back side we have a very consistent tension. And that is due to the tremendous amount of research and development that's gone into that. It's not one of those fluff features that you can just say, oh, well, my machine automatically threads itself. Not that these don't do that, but this is so much more important and so much greater development. But it's so hard to describe to people, to let them understand what has gone into these machines and the care and the development. And it's one of those things, once you have it, you're never going to find something that you like as much, because they just don't sew as well over the entire course of threads and supplies as what you're going to have with this, because it is a true, precise method of regulating these particular stitches.